Okay, thanks. Let's get kicked off and I'll jump right into my slide deck. Good afternoon, everybody. Rick McCutcheon here, MVP. Been awarded 6 times now by Microsoft with this award, and it's much appreciated. As an MVP, though, I have a pretty unique practice. My practice really covers ISVs and SIs, so I do very little work with the end user community anymore, and I kind of miss it because I was kind of known for doing these CRM planning sessions. But with the way it's going with partners and ISVs, I'm trying to take some of my expertise and spread it around to some different partners. So hopefully we can give you some good information today. So when Adam approached me about doing this session, I thought it was a fantastic idea because what's going on now in our our world of working from home, it's changing a lot of the way we have to market and sell ourselves. So I think talking today about how my work in LinkedIn and Adam's work in sort of direct marketing sort of comes together, and we name the title of the session on LinkedIn "What to Do Now," right? Because a lot of us are looking at we can't go to shows, we can't have our events. How do we get through to our business ecosystem? So my practice is right now doing a lot of LinkedIn for Success partners for Microsoft partner programs, social selling programs for partners, and I also facilitate what we call acceleration programs for Microsoft ISVs, where we get into strategic planning. I host conferences, webinars, and podcasts, and I do customer interviews. The last thing I'll talk about are my partner talks that I have on LinkedIn, and I think a lot of you have seen them and have listened to them, so hopefully we're getting some good information out through our partner talk. So let's just kind of move forward and we'll talk a little bit about my LinkedIn work. So today we won't spend a lot of time on sort of the LinkedIn component, and talking about specifics to LinkedIn, but I'm going to talk more about the strategy of LinkedIn. And I've got a workshop coming up in a couple of weeks you can attend if you're looking more on the strategy side of things. So let's kind of jump right into what we're talking about. So let's first talk about selling technology. And I've spent over 20 years selling technology. I've had several companies that we sold mainly CRM products, and I've probably personally sold a few $1 million worth of CRM. So I've got a lot of experience. And over that sort of lifetime and career of selling, I've seen the sales process change. I've seen it really kind of reverse itself from more of let's find a target, go after that target, and eliminate that target until we find somebody who wants to buy, to more to how do we influence our ecosystem to find out who's in the buying mode and how do we get through to them. And that's really what we're going to talk a lot about today. So I love this term ecosystem. An ecosystem conveys the idea that sort of all the pieces of our economy come together in a particular place, and those interactions determine our prosperity and economic growth. And this is a quote from Rosabeth Moss Cantor. So think of this as your garden where you need fertile soil, seeds, and other ingredients to make things grow. And this whole concept of business ecosystem really kind of plays into a lot of the work we do as Microsoft partners, and specifically in the Dynamics world, because as we're out there working, we kind of get known for our work, and we have a very very focused specialty, right? Most of us, whether it's an ERP side, CRM side, field service side, we're usually pretty good at what we do. So when we start to look at who's in our business ecosystem and who sends us work, hold on just one second here. I've got a mouse that's a little bit out of control. We start to look at our customers, prospects, Microsoft sellers, partners, ISV partners, other SI partners, could be contractors, could be supply chain, but we get what we call sales leads from all over the place, right? Or opportunities coming in from all directions once we've been doing this for a while. So when I talk about how we use social media and LinkedIn, this is what we try to do. We try to create what we call our business ecosystem, connect with our business ecosystem, and then influence our business ecosystem. So when we do that, hopefully we're going to be in the right place at the right time to sort of intercept those interested in buying. So I'm going to take you through a couple of slides now that I use when I teach technology sales at a couple of the incubators in Ontario where I'm located. And what I do with these early startup companies is I teach them sort of the buying process and the selling process for technology. So let's kind of look at how somebody today buys technology. So at the highest level, a requirement starts at a business, right? So the requirement could come from somebody in the line of business. It could come from somebody in management. It could come from somebody in the C-level. It could come from somebody in IT, or it could come from a third party. So if they were looking to buy a CRM system, it might look something like this. Requirement could come line of business saying, you know what, we can't keep up with the amount of leads in our funnel. We haven't got our information. We need a place to put it. Could come from management saying, I need a better sort of snapshot of these leads and what people are doing with them. Could come from C-level management where they're saying, I need a better forecast. I need to know what we're closing in the next 30, 60, 90 days. Could come from IT saying, you know what, we can't have this scattered data anymore. We've got to comply with government regulations on data. We need to put it in a CRM system. Or it could come from a third party. One of the partners was in talking to them about it, or they came to Rick McCutcheon's Planning for CRM Success workshop, but something happened out there that started them down the road to say, let's look at a CRM system, or let's look at an ISV application. Maybe I already have CRM deployed and I'm looking to put in marketing automation, or I'm looking to put in, a product like ClickLearn to help me with my documentation, or, I'm looking at something like Resco to help me with my mobility, but a conversation goes on. Then they go back and they have an internal discussion, right? So they start to talk internally about what do we know about CRM? What have we used before? And at that point, they assign a researcher, and that researcher goes out to the web to start to find the different vendors that they think can help them. So they start to look around and they'll start to create their requirements. So they'll know basically what they need, then they go shopping. So they'll go out and they'll look on vendor sites, they'll look at search engine results, they'll get into association and community. So they might go into the D365 UG, or they may go into MSDynamicsWorld. And these types of communities, they'll start to look at content and read things. They'll go into social media though, and they'll go in places like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and even Instagram to get information. And this is kind of a funny one, Instagram. It's playing a bigger piece in this whole buying process now. But what they're doing, they're kind of looking for the truth, right? They want to look to see who's out there, what are they doing, what are people saying about them? And they start their search. After the search, they come back to their group and say, okay, here's what I found. We looked at Microsoft, we may have looked at Salesforce.com, and we may have looked at Sugar, 3 for an example. So we got it narrowed down to 3, and we went through and did a process, and we've come up with Dynamics. Now we're looking at the right partner who can help us. So they'll start to do all this kind of research and move themselves through the sales process. So they'll come back at the end of all this research with maybe a short list of 5 people that they need to reach out to. They'll share those 5 people with the rest of the buying group, and the rest of the buying group will now go onto the web and start looking at what the researcher told them was sort of best of breed for them. They'll come back and say, okay, we looked at what's out there. We know the resources we need to do this. We understand the budget it's going to cost us because we probably found some users out there and actually talked to them. We looked at the timeline, and now we have an approved budget. Yes, we want to go ahead with this CRM upgrade or installation, but we're ready to go, and we've got a short list of 3 or 4 people that we want to work with. From there, the sales process becomes very short. And we're seeing this because, 20 years ago when I sold somebody a CRM system, I was talking to them for 18 months. Now we're seeing it's very quick, right? They're coming to us saying, this is what we want, and it's probably going to go down in like 3 or 4 months. This is because they're able to go out and do their shopping, do their research without talking to our sales team. And we're going to talk about what we need to do to sort of help our story and help us win more. So they engage the vendors then, and it might be a vendor, could be dealer or partner, could be end up, on my plate as a consultant saying, who should I go with? What should I do? And it could go to RFP or could go to quote. They'll select and purchase, and this will all happen usually in a 3 or 4 or 5 month period. Okay, so as we look at that, we say, okay, as ISVs and as SI partners, how do we get engaged? And out here, when they're doing their web research, this is the most important place for us to be in this process. Because if they don't see us, if we don't connect with them, if we don't understand who's buying, and they never see us on this research, we lose. Our sales process ends immediately because we never were in the game. So, we could eliminate that by, having an event or, going to a trade show, but that kind of is not there right now, and that option may not be there for the rest of the year. So we've got to figure out sort of strategies for being able to engage with these people. Now, who are we selling to? So back in the good old days of selling, we sold to the technology guys, right? We came in and that's who we met with. And there's still a big part of that sales process today, but more and more we're talking to C-level people, sales and marketing, customer service, field service, professional service, supply chain, product category, human resources, and the IT. And what gets interesting too, and we start talking, I'll use CRM as an example. When we sell CRM to somebody, the initial purchase may be, $5 per person, $5 per dollar on professional services versus license. So there's a revenue stream we're going to make on professional services. There's a revenue stream we're going to make on the licenses. But as that project grows, they may purchase another 4 to 5 times that amount over the next 3 to 4 or 5 years as that project continues to grow. Especially now when things are in the cloud, things are all connected, they just keep expanding their projects, especially if they're successful projects. So when we start to look at this, we find, especially after the initial purchase, we're more involved with the business side than we are involved with the IT. Because IT has sort of said, hey, we're doing Dynamics, it's in the cloud, it's taken care of. If you want to add on product, make sure you go to AppSource because those are the verified products. Make sure you talk to a gold or platinum partner, right? Those are the ones, you want to be able to deal with. So we're dealing with the business, and they know what they want from an application side, and they know what things should look like. So we're having a business discussion. And again, LinkedIn tells us that 3 in every 4 B2B decision makers and more than 80% of C-level executives now use social media to inform them about their buying decisions. Almost 70% of B2B buyers' journeys now occur through the digital channels. So what does that mean? That means that we need to engage with them in that buying cycle. And this is a chart I use when I'm teaching at the incubators as well, is what is the sort of direction does the buyer go when they're looking on the web? And this is interesting because it really tends down to, when I go to look for software, somebody who's a millennial looks at different places than somebody who's not a millennial. And I have some really interesting conversations, especially if I have a younger group. So we did a course at McMaster University at their incubator last year. And I was talking to one young fellow, he's probably about 28, he owns a startup, has a few employees working for him. And I said, if you're going and doing some research on a business-to-business purchase, which site would you go to first? And, traditionally, I thought, well, go to the website, go to LinkedIn, go to review site. He said, I would go to Instagram. And I said, Instagram? Why would you go to Instagram? He says, I go to Instagram for everything. It then dawned on me that a lot of these younger people that are really used to going to social Well, go look at their social sites before they'll look at the website. Yes, I want to see what's going on with that company on Instagram. So when I start doing research on what companies are doing on Instagram, a lot of them are really starting to figure it out, and it's more of a cultural site. They're not using Instagram to try to get you with product information. They're saying, this is a great company, we're a fun company, and look at the great people that work here. That's what they're showing on Instagram. I said to him, where would you go next? He says, I'd go to YouTube. I want to see some videos. That's interesting because that's where I shop for software too. I go on YouTube. All right, where would you go next? He says, well, you're teaching LinkedIn today. I'm certainly going to go check out this company on LinkedIn. And I thought this all to be very interesting. And I said, at what point would you go to the website? He said, I probably wouldn't go to the website. I said, what do you mean you wouldn't go to the website? He goes, I'll find enough information out here on social channels. I don't really need to go to the website because that's really your marketing message. That's what you want me to hear. Out here in the social world is the truth. So when we start to think about that, this is really powerful, right? Especially when we think about who's researching the purchase at many companies. That initial researcher is probably somebody under 35 years old doing it on a phone, and they're very social savvy, right? So if we start to look at who's doing this and doing this type of research, these sites become more and more important. A more traditional buyer like myself, I'm going to search things like G2 and Capterra and look at reviews. I'm going to go to LinkedIn to see how big the company is. Do I know anybody there? Do I know anybody who's connected? I'm going to go probably into UG site and start to ask people if anybody used this company before. I'm certainly going to go to MSDynamicsWorld because that's where I'm going to find lots of content and white papers and information on different types of companies in that category I may not have found the first time. So as we start to go through there, we start to make this buying decision, and then they come in and they connect with us through a webinar, phone chat, email, text, or a web form. So depending on the type of buyer they are, they connect with us at this level. So when we're looking at research about the buying process, what do we hear? Well, CEB and IBM did this study in 2012. That's 8 years ago. And they said 8 years ago, the average B2B sale was 50% through completion before they reached out. So when we look at that whole research side of things, they said it was 57%. Well, if in 2012 it was 57%, what do you think it is today? When we look at the evolution of selling, digital transformation, how people are more tech savvy, I'm probably thinking it's closer to 75, 80%. In fact, I went to a presentation last year that G2 gave, and G2 is one of these review sites, much like Capterra, and one of their managers was giving this presentation on their data, and they said over 40% of software buyers today in the B2B category are 100% sure of which vendor they're going to buy from before they reach out to a vendor. Not 50% sure, 80%, they're 100% sure they found the right one based on what their research found them. There's also 7 people involved in the average B2B buying process. This is from Gardner Group. IDC says 75% of B2B buyers now use social media to research vendors. Harvard Business Review says 90% of decision makers never respond to a cold call. I believe it was always 90%. Back in the good old days of selling, that's all we were trained to do was go out and do cold calls. And 74% of buyers want to choose the first rep that can add value and insights, right? So, I can do so much with my research. What do I need you for as a sales rep? How can you add value to this process? So when we start looking like this, I use LinkedIn, right? So if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I have a lot of content out there, and I have a lot of sort of different things that I post from third parties. So I'm always out there looking to sort of build my business on LinkedIn. This is what I teach. I teach marketing teams how to not to look at LinkedIn as another click, try, buy engine. It's more of a longer influential sale. And this is what I teach sales teams, how to do this and how to really make their profiles really rock, how to connect with the right people, and how to build influence over a longer period of time. So this is actually one of the last slides from my LinkedIn for Partners. So we want you to look like a trusted advisor, an expert, a coach, and a rock star, right? So keep that in mind. When someone lands on your profile, we want them to say, yes, Adam, you're the guy I want to do business with. Yes, Rick, you're the guy I want to do business with. So I'll show you a couple of slides from that training program. And this is an old LinkedIn slide. Which Erica would you buy from? If you're in the sales process and Erica is the sales rep, you are going to go check out Erica's profile on LinkedIn. If you run into a profile that looks like Erica 1, you're not going to be impressed. In fact, when I ask my live classes and my students, what do you think of Erica 1? We get things like she doesn't care, she's lazy, she's old-fashioned, or she may not even exist. She could just be a scam, right? But we get into Erica 2, and this is an old profile style for LinkedIn, but I think the slide says the right things. We have good information about Erica, a good summary, and some nice slides and a presentation, so we know Erica's real and Erica is a professional. So you got to build a profile that rocks, like Cami Zimmer from Glimpse, right? Good photo. I love the background picture because they do last mile technology. So if somebody's going to deliver groceries, they can tell it, on a handheld device, on any mobile device, where is that customer? How far are they from us? And they have integrations to Dynamics 365. Or a lot of Yvonne Stano, right? Chief Evangelist for Resco. Unlock the potential enterprise mobility. You land on his profile, you know what business Yvonne is in. Or Jacob from ClickLearn, still writing documentations by hand, and he has a very professional looking LinkedIn profile. This is what I strive to get all my customers and students to be able to do. We also teach how to build content that rocks. So we start to look at content and we start to say, okay, how much time do we have to build content? Well, only 20–25% of your content should be something that you've built or from your company. 60–70–80% should be third party. Here's a good example. I put the Microsoft 2020 release notes up on my feed with a picture of D365 on it, got 7,900 views. I did a quick interview with Neil Benson, another MVP, recorded it, put it up there, we got 2,500 views. So this is content that rock, that people want to see. If I'm at an event and we're getting awards, this is our user group, right? This is the greatest user group in the world, and this is our conference last year. This year, hopefully, we'll be going near the end of the year to Nashville to all meet, and these are our volunteers of the year, right? Take their photo, congratulate them, put them up, 6,800 views. Another one was, one of the top volunteers in Canada that I work with, and Todd put him up there. He's on this stage, and I took a picture one-on-one. Over here was the hackathon, right? And Felix Robitaille and his company won the hackathon. And, this is the only picture I could get. Had terrible lighting, still smiling people, 5,400 views. So it's content that rocks, that people want to see about our channel. Here's some really interesting things. We can put white papers on LinkedIn. We've got some tremendous feedback on white papers. So this one I just put up last week from Glimpse. I already got 4,200 views. This one from IM Partners. Oh, sorry. This one from IM Partners, we got 5,000 views on it. It's been up a little over a month. And then one from Resco with over 4,000 views on it. So this is the kind of content that our ecosystem wants to see. And my ecosystem is ISVs, is SI partners, it's Microsoft partners, and end user customers. So we want to make sure we post every day and we post all the time. But this is why this webinar we're doing today is so important. And I'm glad Adam and I are working together, because we need to build content that captures, that not only rocks, but we can move them into sort of our net to be able to say, okay, who are we talking to? Who attended our webinar? are they a real sort of lead prospect for us? And now on LinkedIn, we can do events. Finally, events have been published. So last week, we did this online, or I facilitated this for ClickLearn, and they publicly stated they had over 600 people sign up for their partner and end user event. So they had one track for partners to learn more about their partner program, and another 3 tracks, I believe, for the authors that work with ClickLearn. So for those who don't know, ClickLearn's an authoring tools, uses AI technology to be able to record everything we do when we build a dynamic system and automatically upgrade it and turn it into, I think, 16 different languages or something. Tremendous product. So we did an online conference. We pushed it out on LinkedIn. They're also an MSDynamicsWorld customer, and we had some great success with it. Here's the event for today. So if we look at the event for today, what to do now, global crisis, we had 103 people sign up through LinkedIn, probably an equal number of people signed up through MSDynamicsWorld. So, you know, being social, being connected to people, and then when you have something that's interesting to them, send them out, put them in a webinar. So this is really how the social selling side of things that I work with and the marketing side that Adam works with really comes together. So thanks for your time today. This is a short presentation. Please find me on LinkedIn, Rick McCutcheon. I think most of you probably connected to me already. And also on the front page of my profile, I have a workshop that's coming up on the 19th, Modern Selling the LinkedIn Way for Microsoft partners and sellers. 3-hour event. This is kind of my best stuff. So hopefully if you like what you heard today, you can come out for that event. So Adam, over to you.
Thank you. And actually looking at your LinkedIn profile, I have LinkedIn profile envy now. I need to really step that up. Well, thanks, Rick. And I really appreciate everybody being here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam Berezin. I'm the co-founder of MSDynamicsWorld, or MSDW as we call it. Let me see if I can, actually, Rick, you might have to move the slides for me. If you could go to the next one. Thank you. So before we get started, I just want to give a background about MSDynamicsWorld. I'm sure there are lots of you on the call today who have worked with us in some capacity, but for those of you who aren't too familiar with who MSDW is, we're the leading digital news and information provider in the Dynamics channel all over the world. We launched in January of 2008. We were the very first dedicated news and information resource for the Dynamics channel, and actually the very first dedicated online marketing platform for Dynamics ISVs and partners. And we launched MSDW because at the time, there really wasn't any independent entity out there that was providing news and really this high-level strategic guidance for Dynamics professionals. There are a few forums, but those are really extremely technical. And we've also found that there were very few marketing choices presented to Dynamics ISVs and partners. You know, they were mainly in the form of these traditional marketing activities like trade shows, print. You know, many companies would try renting lists. I'm not a list rental fan. So we wanted to create a platform for organizations to consistently market themselves to their prospects and generate steady streams of hyper-targeted leads. So the MSDW community is comprised of over 80,000 Dynamics professionals from around the world who log into our site daily and consume content on a regular basis. They'll view videos, webcasts, articles, download white papers, ebooks, you know, other types of content. The content that we create, I should note too, is primarily designed for senior level executives in our channel. And in fact, about 70% of our entire member base are senior level executives. These are the people with purchasing power. And one of the cool things about the content that we produce is that 90% of all the content on MSDW has been exclusively produced for our site. You can't get it anywhere else. And really the 10% of content on our site that is really not exclusively developed for MSDW is in the form of ISV and partner videos, webcasts, white papers, case studies, brochures, other sort of downloadable content. So moving on, Rick, if you could actually go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in addition to being this large digital news and information resource, MSDW is also the world's leading provider of digital marketing and lead generation programs to ISVs and partners. We work with about a little over 150 ISVs and partners annually who use our demand gen programs. And last year alone, which I actually think is a really neat stat, those companies generated over 40,000 targeted leads from our programs, which is really cool. Next slide, please. All right, so current climate is going to change marketing forever, and that's a large part of what this presentation today is going to focus on. And now and in the months ahead, I would say ISVs and partners will need to develop a robust integrated digital marketing strategy. So whether you're a marketer at a large ISV or partner, a medium or small size ISV or partner organization, you're going to need to quickly develop a high level of digital marketing sophistication. And I really believe that your ability to survive and thrive in our space will absolutely depend on this. For the companies in the Dynamics channel who already have adopted strong digital marketing initiatives over the years, they're in a great place to build on their existing strategy. For the ISVs and partners who have primarily relied on in-person trade shows and other traditional marketing vehicles and who don't have a good annual digital strategy, it's even more critical to start building one. But the most important thing for marketers to do now is to sit back, take a deep breath, and embrace digital marketing. The interesting thing is that the situation really does present an amazing opportunity for you to use new ways to connect with your clients and prospects, and also refine your marketing investments. Next slide, please. Okay, so I would say a huge thing that I would avoid right now is, once again, don't be what I call a panic marketer. There's a lot of uncertainty going on right now in a lot of different areas, but it's important, as I mentioned earlier, to just take a deep breath and don't panic. A panic marketer is somebody who says, okay, all of my trade show sponsorships are canceled. I need to market online, and then throws money at a ton of different things without doing careful analysis. A panic marketer assumes that nobody's going to spend money on solutions and services and decides to freeze all current and near future marketing investments. A panic marketer is someone who thinks that it's best to wait it out instead of being proactive. Please do not be a panic marketer. Next slide, Rick.
Adam, if I could just add one note right now.
Yeah, sure.
Since everybody is working from home, if you want to go out and connect, everybody's online, right? A lot of people that had their days full of meetings, you could never get to them. They were never on LinkedIn. I'm telling you, you can connect to people now that you've never had a chance to before. Sorry, go ahead. No,
I agree. The entire dynamic has changed. This is actually a very interesting statistic. And I wanted to put this in there because at MSDW, we constantly monitor the ISV partner and user sides of the Dynamics marketplace. And the good news for ISVs and partners is that Dynamics customers are still heavily investing in third-party solutions during the pandemic. So in a recent survey that we conducted of over 100 Dynamics customer organizations, 73 indicated that they are planning to invest more or continue with their same level of investment in third-party solutions during the pandemic. So I wanted to put this slide in here because it really should be very reassuring to all of you, and it should also reinforce the notion that you should not stop marketing at all to your prospects during the crisis. Next slide, please. All right, so as I'm sure many of you know, there are tons of ways to market digitally to your prospects. Rick did a good job of explaining a lot of those, whether it's inbound marketing or outbound marketing vehicles. However, I believe that during this crisis, or really any crisis, like especially the one that we're experiencing now, it's important for you to focus heavily on the digital marketing vehicles that encourage a proactive outbound approach. So these primarily include direct targeted email campaigns promoting a diverse set of thought leadership focused content. For example, like your webcasts, ebooks, videos, podcasts, educational blog posts. Also using LinkedIn and Twitter to do that too. In my advice would be not to invest a lot of money on inbound activities, which at this point are really just acting as a waiting game for your prospects to come to you. I mean, they really do that anyways. That's what they're designed to do. But, once again, the importance of outbound marketing during a time like this is that it gives you an even better opportunity to deliver targeted messages of reassurance about your company and its ability to help your clients and prospects, businesses get through the difficult times without waiting for them to visit your website and find you. Most businesses have developed monthly or quarterly editorial calendars and are able to take essentially a set it and forget it approach. But when you consider everything that's happening to our economy today, if you don't revisit your content plan and adjust based on the current state of the world, you could really be faced with some dangerous backlash and missed opportunities. And using outbound vehicles to quickly and effectively deliver your message through all the content I mentioned earlier is key, without waiting for people to come to you. So you're getting a head start on that. Next slide, please. So making digital marketing permanent. So yes, that's my arm. I don't actually have that tattoo. I don't know if my wife would like that too much. But as long as you approach the shift to digital marketing strategically, there's no reason why it should just serve as an emergency fill-in, but instead can carry on providing long-term value when, this whole situation eventually gets back to normal. And of course, it's going to make you more resilient to deal with any future pandemics. The important thing is, making digital marketing a large and permanent part of your annual marketing strategy. It really does greatly reduce your overall marketing risk now, and it will in the future. So my advice is to eliminate a lot of the marketing investments that require an extensive amount of travel and in-person resource allocation. Not everybody's going to agree with this, but this is really what I think. And a perfect example of this are in-person trade shows, which are highly susceptible to global and economic uncertainty. So, if you're an ISV or a partner that builds their entire annual strategy around trade shows, and now all the trade shows are canceled, you're essentially running around starting from scratch, essentially trying to build up a marketing strategy. So, really balancing your marketing investments in such a way that you're investing more in activities that are not susceptible to global and economic uncertainty, in my opinion, would be the most prudent approach. Next slide. All right. So while the pandemic has already had a significant impact on the business community and the economy, as I mentioned earlier, your company has tons of opportunities to be there for your clients and prospects through this crisis. And I know, although it's frustrating for many people to back away from face-to-face interactions, you can offset some of that impact by ramping up your online presence and always being present for your clients and prospects. And really the key areas to do this are, one, through content such as ebooks, white papers, infographics, webcasts, videos, podcasts, even blog posts. Through social channels like Rick discussed, such as LinkedIn and Twitter, even Facebook and Instagram. And then there's really, through real-time communications, such as Microsoft Teams, Zooms, virtual events. Having that real-time presence to your clients and prospects is very important. And then also through direct targeted outbound email marketing. Other ways to digitally communicate with your prospects, more of sort of an indirect approach, as I briefly touched upon earlier, or through ads and inbound marketing. Although, as I did mention earlier, I would put less emphasis on inbound during the pandemic and focus primarily on outbound. Next slide, please. So a key aspect is focusing on thought leadership through digital channels. So in a crisis like this one, silence is the worst possible response. If your company refuses to address critical issues or kind of shies away from them, the conversation is going to continue without your input because your competitors are going to jump all over it. Your clients and prospects are going to look for answers wherever they can find them, and misleading information or information that that you're not providing them can really proliferate in the absence of those answers. And as I mentioned too, this is really a critical opportunity for all of you to demonstrate your thought leadership through digital marketing. And in my opinion, the best way to do this is through specific types of content like ebooks, podcasts, videos, articles, webcasts, white papers, even infographics. It's important to utilize different types of content to deliver your message during this time, and really, during any time, especially because at MSDW, for example, we track so much data from all of our members, and we know that people's content consumption habits differ. So some people prefer videos, while other people prefer white papers. So in order to maximize your reach among your clients and prospects, it's important to utilize different types of content. But more importantly, it's important to spread that content around the different digital platforms, like MSDW, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So the current situation also presents all of you with a great opportunity to get outside of your marketing comfort zone, as I call it. Now more than ever, it's time for you to be creative, explore new marketing activities. And for some marketers, this can be difficult, and I get it. If you're used to relying on the same old traditional marketing vehicles, now is the time to understand the new demand gen vehicles. This really gives you an excuse to do that. It's also a way for you to reset your marketing strategies and initiatives, reevaluate your past marketing strategies and investments, and take a much more careful analytical approach if you haven't done so before. With a lot of marketing activities, and once again, I don't mean to harp on trade shows, but a lot of the times with trade shows, it's more of a emotional and psychological decision to sponsor a trade show as opposed to an analytical one, in the sense of, I got a low cost per lead at the last trade show, so I'm going to do this level of sponsorship. It's more, people decide on trade show sponsorships, in my experience, from speaking with ISVs and partners, on a much more emotional level as opposed to an analytical one. So I think this gives marketers now an opportunity to kind of reset and take a look at their investments and really approach it in a much different way. So, now, once again, this is the opportunity for you to shift to aggressive digital marketing. I'm going to briefly show you how MSDW can help you do that. So, Rick, if you can go to the next slide. So MSDW, we offer more than half a dozen marketing programs. I'm just going to briefly highlight them. And really, the purpose of this is to just show you how you can put your content to work effectively on a platform like MSDW for thought leadership and lead gen. So, we have video promotion with lead capture, content promotion with lead capture, webcast promotion with lead capture, podcast sponsorships, and even content creation services, which is really cool. We actually just launched that last year. And then a new offering we just released is our lead gen starter package, which is really designed for companies who haven't worked with us before, but now really want to quickly start their digital lead gen journey. And with all of our programs, I want to know too, and this is something that I touched upon about the importance of proactive outbound marketing. That's what we do at MSDW. So we use our vast amounts of site member data to ensure that each campaign that an ISV or a partner runs with us is hyper-targeted to the specific Dynamics audience they want to reach. So we can target specific Dynamics product group, if you want to reach users, or if you're an ISV and want to reach partners, industries, business focus areas. So when we promote an ISV or a partner in their content, it goes to the exact Dynamics audience they want to reach. And once again, the importance of that is that it ensures that all of the marketing dollars that a company chooses to invest for digital lead gen only goes towards reaching their target audience. Next slide. Thank you, Rick. All right. So once again, I'm just going to briefly run through these, but I want to talk about our video promotion program because it's really cool and it's very unique. As Rick mentioned, especially millennials, they love videos. They love, doing research about companies and solutions through videos. I agree that videos are great, and more professionals in the Dynamics space that we're seeing at MSDW are consuming video content at a much faster rate than ever before, and it's really becoming the preferred content type for a lot of people. But there's a problem for ISVs who have videos and partners, and the problem is mainly a lack of visibility who views them. So it's good to get a lot of views, but you need to take it a step further and actually find out who has viewed them. So, YouTube and Vimeo and other mainstream video platforms, they're good for a lot of things, but their biggest flaw is the lack of visibility into your viewers, and you need that because especially now, otherwise it's impossible to know if your videos are paying off and you don't know if the right people are watching them and who they are. So what we actually did last year was essentially solve that problem. So in January of 2019, we launched the very first video platform that has built-in sales lead collection. It took us like five or 6 months to build. And the platform not only lets you post all of your videos to MSDW as you would to YouTube or Vimeo, but it also provides you with the data and contact info of your prospects who view all of your videos. So that's a really neat tool that we're finding a lot of ISVs and partners are having a tremendous amount of success with. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of what we call the MSDW lead portal. So from a demand gen perspective, being able to create content, to post content, videos in this case, and capture the data of people that actually consume it, so you can once again proactively reach out to them through outbound communication. We've enabled that. So we built this lead platform about, I think, mid-year of 2008, and it's really the backbone of a lot of our lead gen programs that utilize your content to help generate leads for you. So when you post videos to our site, each of those videos is actually linked to your own lead collection system on MSDW, and every time a prospect consumes one of your videos, all of their lead data is actually stored in your lead portal, which you can access, which is really cool. And from a content creation standpoint, video creation standpoint, I should say, that will sort of help you determine which of your videos are working. If you should create more how-to videos or company profile videos or customer case study videos, it provides you with a really cool roadmap for video content creation. And then for some of that other content that I mentioned earlier about the ebooks and the white papers and the case studies and the product brochures, we actually built a program called Content Promotion with Lead Capture. So it works very similarly to that of our video program, but instead of capturing the leads from your videos, you're able to capture the leads of people who download any piece of your posted content on MSDW. So once again, you post all your content to MSDynamicsWorld. It's linked to your own lead collection system. And then every time one of your prospects consumes a piece of your content, their data and information is stored in that lead system, and you can follow up with them in real time. So once again, being proactive, utilizing that outbound marketing approach, which is so important. And then another content format that we find works incredibly well are webcasts. So we do about 200 webcasts annually. Last year, those webcasts attracted more than 15,000 registrants. This program is excellent because it really plays on that whole thought leadership element that we discussed a few slides back. And it gives you the opportunity to really present an educational session to very targeted groups of people in the Dynamics channel. And the neat thing is, it also kind of adds a video to your video collection too, because after the session runs, we actually put it on our video platform, and then you're able to get the leads of people that actually view it on demand for 30 days. So, it's not like you put on a really good webcast and, you're displaying a lot of great thought leadership. And then, after the session ends, then, people forget that message. That message is continuously promoted through our video platform, which is really cool for ISVs and partners. And then we also do podcast sponsorships. And this is another piece of content that I touched upon earlier in the session. And this is a great way for companies to really demonstrate thought leadership. Sponsoring a podcast, you work directly with the MSDynamicsWorld team. It's very educational, and it really allows you to kind of talk about stories of innovation that your company has participated in. We're finding that podcasts are becoming super popular among our site members, and they're great tools to demonstrate thought leadership. And then the last service I'm just going to touch upon is something relatively new that we started, which is content creation service. There's so many companies in our space that need content created. They might have a lot of content already, but they want to continuously update their content library. And it's all part of that digital marketing journey that is so important for ISVs and partners to embark on right now. So we don't really create videos or anything like that, but we create white papers, ebooks, case studies, and those types of content that can really help demonstrate thought leadership. And the really cool thing actually about our content creation service is that you take the content that we've created and you plug it into our programs, and then it generates leads for you, and you capture those leads. There's a lot of content creation services I've found that will create content, and then they'll just give it to you, and they'll say, okay, you take care of it. I don't have a vehicle for you to promote it. It's up to you to do that. But we're kind of there for you throughout this entire digital marketing journey. And that's it. So I don't know, Rick, if you have anything else to add, maybe we can just open it up, see if anybody has any questions.
We had one question, Adam, about the videos. Does it track
Okay.
the amount, the number of views from the videos?
Yeah, so we actually track we track views and leads. So in order for somebody to be considered a lead, they have to watch a video for at least a minute. But we track the number of views for videos as well.
Okay. Another question that I had, we talked about this at an earlier meeting. Because the number of actual hits that the site gets and views, it must really have an effect on, on the SEO on this content you create.
Yeah, it does actually, and that's a great question and point to bring up. What we actually find is, so all of our SEO rankings are incredibly high for our own content as well as vendor content. But what I've actually started to notice over the past couple of years is that we pretty much show up in the top results of all the Google News feeds as it pertains to Dynamics related topics, which is really cool. And actually, when we post a new piece of ISV or partner content, that piece of content actually shows up very high, in the Google News feed as well. So it's really translated over to all types of content that we have on the site, which is really nice to see.
Okay, thank you. We've got one more question coming in here. Are the videos stored on your platform or YouTube?
Yeah, so we built and developed our very own video platform. So it's hosted directly on MSDynamicsWorld. We don't embed anything. It's our own platform. It took several months to develop, and you post them right to MSDW. It's pretty cool.
Okay, and then a question around, I don't know if I understand it. Did you review the pricing of the webinars versus the video showcase?
No, I didn't. For the purpose of this presentation, I didn't feel like it was appropriate to get into pricing details. But if somebody wants to reach out to me offline, I'd be happy to share that with them.
Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of your reach within the Dynamics community, the number of, the size of your list?
Sure. Yeah. So it's not really. I don't like to use the phrase list because we're not a list broker. I'm not really a fan of list brokers, to be honest. But our online community has over 80,000 active members from around the world. So, and it's interesting kind of how we just.
That's all opt-in, correct? They opt in themselves?
Correct. Yeah. So it's free to consume any of the content on MSDynamicsWorld. It's always been that way since we launched back in 2008. If people want to consume the content, then they just have to register. And when they register, they submit a lot of details about, who they are and their business preferences and interests and, all sorts of things, as it relates to, their role in the Dynamics channel. And then it's really cool too, because we actually track, and I briefly mentioned this, but we track content consumption habits of our site members. So, when we work with ISVs and partners on the marketing side, we provide some really good guidance in terms of, where they should focus their content creation and content marketing efforts. If more people are starting to consume videos, then, that's the route they should go in terms of, they should create more videos. If people are downloading, ebooks, but the ebooks, we're finding people are preferring to consume shorter ebooks that are just a few pages as opposed to, 10 or 15 pages, then we advise them on that. So, we have this whole really nice ecosystem that we've built at MSDW, and we're just able to extract so much behavioral data out of it. That it really helps ISVs and partners adjust their marketing strategies.
Okay, great. We're at the top of the hour, so it could be time to close this session down. We have recorded it, so we're going to be able to post it for the audience.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking time today to listen to us. And Adam, I'll let you close things off.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate you doing the presentation with me. Rick and I are definitely going to collaborate on future presentations. There's just so much kind of ever-changing things happening right now, all over the world because of the pandemic as well as in our space. So, we'll be sure to come up with some additional sessions for all of you. But, I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody has acclimated to sort of this whole, remote lifestyle, which can be tough for some people. And my heart goes out to them. But once again, I want everybody to stay safe, and thank you so much for attending.
Okay, Adam, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Rick.